Sometimes we encounter a perplexing paradox. An individual may appear to be the epitome of friendliness, their words exuding warmth and goodwill, yet deep down, on an instinctive level, a subtle but persistent feeling emerges that something isn't quite right. An inexplicable sense of unease arises, an intuitive premonition that behind the facade of cordiality lies something far more complex, perhaps even hostile. The great Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung, whose research delved into the most hidden corners of the human psyche, meticulously developed a fundamental concept he termed the shadow. The shadow is not merely an abstract idea. It represents that part of the human personality which an individual consciously or unconsciously denies or suppresses from their awareness, yet it inevitably manifests in their interactions with others. When destructive emotions, such as deep resentment, burning envy, or lingering bitterness, fester within a person, they typically strive to meticulously camouflage these feelings, concealing them from plain sight. However, despite all efforts, these emotions can never be entirely hidden. There always remain subtle, almost imperceptible, yet unmistakably accurate signals that betray the true state of affairs. This discussion will reveal 8 such undeniable indicators that can shed light on whether someone in your close circle harbors hostile or negative feelings, even if they exert every conceivable effort to meticulously veil them. Special attention should be paid to the 8th and final sign. It is the most sophisticated and insidious of all, and it has the power to fundamentally alter one's perception of certain individuals, completely reshaping their image in the observer's mind. To begin our exploration, let's highlight the first sign: contempt, skillfully disguised as irony. Hidden hostility doesn't always reveal itself overtly. Some individuals tend to express it through sarcastic remarks, biting comments, or caustic irony. They deliberately mock aspects they know to be vulnerable points for the other person. However, when the target of such ridicule tries to address the nature of their comments, the aggressor retorts with phrases like, "I was just joking," "Don't be so sensitive, ball," or "You can't take a joke." This behavior is particularly insidious because it leaves the victim feeling deeply uncomfortable, while the instigator maintains the appearance of someone acting without ill intent. Indeed, systematically repeated irony, particularly concerning the same topics, serves as an unequivocal indicator of hidden contempt. If jokes from such a person invariably make the recipient feel humiliated or belittled, and, more importantly, if they consistently return to the same painful aspects over time, this can no longer be considered ordinary humor, but rather a clear manifestation of suppressed hostility. The renowned psychoanalyst Carl Jung asserted that an individual's shadow is projected onto others in a very subtle and sometimes entirely involuntary manner. Thus, when someone systematically resorts to irony to attack specific traits or aspects of another's personality, they are essentially exposing a part of their own self that they are unable to accept or acknowledge. The second alarming sign is directly related to the phenomenon of hidden sabotage. When someone in your close circle, be it friends or family members, begins to feel threatened by your personal success or professional growth, they may resort to very subtle and veiled methods of interference. Sabotage does not always manifest in an overt and obvious form. Often it takes the guise of misleading advice, intentional or seemingly accidental misunderstandings, and a series of minor errors that, accumulating, collectively hinder the achievement of your goals. For instance, a friend or relative who systematically forgets to pass on critically important information, overlooks key details, or inadvertently creates additional complications in your life, might not be as absent-minded as they appear at first glance. If such incidents exhibit an alarming pattern of repetition and, crucially, occur during the most critical and decisive moments, there is a legitimate reason to wonder, are they truly simple coincidences? Careful observation of the consistency of such behavior helps to reveal whether an unconscious, subconscious drive to sabotage lies beneath it. The renowned psychoanalyst Jung once explained that in situations where an individual lacks the inner courage to confront their own failures and imperfections, they may unconsciously project their disappointment onto others, creating obstacles for them to avoid the painful feeling of their own inadequacy. The third characteristic sign manifests in the form of unspoken but palpable rivalry. Certain individuals seem utterly incapable of accepting anyone else's achievements without immediately feeling an urgent need to surpass them. Every triumphant event for someone else invariably prompts them to either pull the focus onto themselves or diminish the significance of the other person's victory. When one shares joyful news instead of sincere congratulations, they encounter the conversational partner beginning to speak exclusively about themselves. If personal success is mentioned, a declaration of having achieved something similar or even more outstanding immediately follows. Such unspoken rivalry often stems from deeply ingrained internal insecurities. Individuals exhibiting this behavior prove unable to tolerate another's brilliance, as it directly threatens their own sense of self-worth. If every communication with such an individual inevitably transforms into a kind of competition, then, in all likelihood, a suppressed feeling of resentment or envy lies beneath it. The renowned psychoanalyst Jung asserted that the phenomenon of shadow projection compels people to attribute to others those traits they cannot or do not wish to acknowledge within themselves. Consequently, those who internally feel inadequate may unconsciously strive to diminish the merits of others or engage in competition with them, solely to avoid a painful confrontation with their own feelings of inadequacy. The fourth sign to observe is the manifestation of superficial support. Individuals harboring hidden animosity often resort to masking their true feelings by demonstrating shallow, yet entirely ineffective assistance. In situations where help is needed, they tend either to diminish the significance of the problem or to invent all sorts of excuses to avoid involvement. When it comes to someone's successes, their enthusiasm appears either strained and forced or is completely absent. This kind of attitude can become particularly evident during pivotal, key moments in life. When it becomes clear that someone in your close circle is consistently unavailable during important periods or displays complete indifference to your achievements, it may indicate a lack of sincere, positive feelings on their part. The absence of genuine support is not always easy to recognize at first glance, but over time it becomes undeniable, especially when observing a person's reactions during moments of triumph or periods of difficulty. Carl Jung once spoke of ego dissociation as a psychological mechanism that underlies the emotional detachment of some individuals from those around them. This state can manifest as aloofness, coldness, and an inability to offer support to loved ones. Next, we move to the fifth sign, control skillfully disguised as care. Some individuals attempt to dominate others' lives, presenting these actions as being solely for the benefit of those they seek to control. They persistently dictate what should be done, criticize every choice made, and constantly question the person's ability to make their own decisions. Their true intention is not to provide support, but to create a sense of dependence. This type of control can be particularly difficult to identify, as it often hides behind the facade of seemingly loving advice and apparent deep concern. The key indicator here is how one feels after interacting with such an individual. If after receiving every piece of advice, instead of an increase in self-confidence, there is only an amplification of insecurity, it is quite probable that a form of manipulation is at play. Jung asserted that the desire to control others stems from a deeply rooted fear of internal chaos. Individuals unable to cope with their own uncertainty try to order and manage the lives of others, thereby avoiding a confrontation with their own emotional instability. The sixth sign is the spreading of slander and false rumors. Individuals harboring animosity or hostility rarely dare to express their negative emotions openly and directly. Instead, they tend to discuss their grievances with third parties, actively disseminating unflattering remarks and deliberately distorted information about you. This tactic is particularly sophisticated and insidious, as its impact on the target occurs indirectly, often completely unnoticed, until the harmful consequences become obvious and tangible. If you suddenly discover an inexplicable change in the behavior and attitude of those around you, where former friends or colleagues begin to conspicuously avoid you or display uncharacteristic aloofness and coldness, this could serve as an alarming signal that someone is deliberately spreading discrediting information about you. It is precisely inaccurate or intentionally exaggerated rumors that act as an exceptionally powerful and destructive weapon in the arsenal of those who harbor hidden animosity or resentment. Their destructive power lies in their ability to undermine public opinion about a person, inflict irreparable damage to their reputation, and ultimately gradually isolate their public image from society. The renowned Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung explained in his works that the deep-seated need to belittle or discredit other people often represents nothing more than an unconscious desire to project onto them one's own internal insecurities, fears, and character weaknesses. Individuals experiencing an acute sense of their own inadequacy or deep dissatisfaction with their own lives attempt to compensate for and balance this oppressive feeling of inadequacy by deliberately portraying others in an unflattering, negative light. In other words, those who allow themselves to make negative statements and spread ill opinions about you are likely unwittingly revealing far more information about their own inner world and problems than about you. The seventh indicator to pay attention to is a complete lack of joy regarding others' achievements. People whose care is genuine and sincere experience authentic happiness when someone reaches significant milestones in their life. They not only offer unwavering support during difficult times, but also enthusiastically celebrate others' victories as they perceive another's success as something deeply positive and deservedly rewarding. However, those who harbor hidden resentment or envy find it extremely difficult to conceal their inner irritation. They can be easily recognized by cold, detached reactions, sudden changes in conversation topics, or overt attempts to diminish others' achievements. If someone shares their success and receives an indifferent, "Oh, that's great," in response, or observes an immediate shift in attention to the conversational partner, this may indicate hidden envy or an uncontrolled sense of rivalry. Carl Gustav Jung, the renowned psychoanalyst, explained that the inability to genuinely rejoice for other people often points to a deep, unresolved inner conflict. In such a situation, the success of others becomes a painful reminder of one's own shortcomings or unrealized ambitions. This occurs because by observing others achieve what they desire, a person inadvertently highlights what they themselves could not accomplish. Individuals experiencing such feelings often try to devalue others' successes, using phrases like, "Well, that's not that important," "I did something similar a while ago," or "You could have done better." These expressions are not merely opinions, but clear signs of hidden impatience and dissatisfaction. Thus, if a person notices that someone in their immediate circle finds it extremely difficult to acknowledge their victories, and instead of genuine joy displays clear signs of irritation or displeasure, it is highly probable that deep down this person feels something entirely different than what they outwardly demonstrate. The eighth sign, which we will now discuss, is directly related to the subtlest manifestations of nonverbal communication and elusive details. Hidden hostility or animosity reveals itself precisely in these inconspicuous yet significant nuances. Often it is expressed not through spoken words, but through involuntary postures, gestures, and non-verbal signals that the body sends to those around it. For instance, a fleeting glance averted at an inappropriate moment, a barely noticeable strained smile, a sudden change in facial expression, or a tense, oppressive silence can convey significantly more information than the most elaborate speech. Many people attempt to skillfully mask their true feelings and inner experiences, yet the human body invariably betrays the deepest emotions. If an individual displays ostentatious favor, pretending to value the person they are speaking with, but deep down harbors hostility towards them, this will inevitably manifest in subtle gestures and reactions. For example, their hands might subtly tense when you talk about your success. Their tone of voice might slightly change when they offer a compliment, or they might avoid direct eye contact during certain key moments of the conversation. The renowned psychoanalyst Jung asserted that the body and the unconscious never lie, even if a person tries their utmost to conceal their true feelings. This is because the conscious mind, being the rational part of the psyche, is capable of wearing any mask, but the body, obeying deeper impulses, always reacts to authentic, genuine emotions. If, in interacting with someone, you sense an unclear tension, discomfort, or an inexplicable coldness, it is crucial to trust your instincts. It is entirely possible that you have picked up on a signal that your conscious mind currently finds difficult to logically explain or rationalize. Recognizing these non-obvious signals requires heightened attention, sensitivity, and developed intuition from the observer. Words, as is well known, can be deceptive and misleading, but body language and the smallest details always reveal the true state of affairs, exposing the truth. The creators express their sincere appreciation and deep gratitude to all those who have remained alongside throughout this unique journey, sharing every moment of the engaging adventure. Their presence, support, and attention have made this experience truly unforgettable and meaningful. We eagerly anticipate a new encounter with our dedicated audience when the next video material is presented soon. This will mark a new chapter in our ongoing interaction, inviting viewers to join the next stage of our shared exploration or creative endeavor.